Do you know of a stellar leader or an outstanding organization that deserves a proper shout-out? Nominate them for IBJ's awards. From 40 in their 40s and Women of Influence to Nonprofit and Healthcare Excellence Awards, we're celebrating rising stars, seasoned leaders, and organizations making a difference. Discover which programs are accepting nominations now at ibj.com/nominate. Do you want to mix moments of inspiration with time to network? IBJ Media Events has you covered. From industry deep dives to awards celebrations honoring Indiana's top leaders, see what's coming up and reserve your seat now at ibj.com/register.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Thursday, September 4th, 2025. I'm Alex Brown. The Lamaflex Group, a transport packaging company headquartered in Sweden, has announced plans to establish its first U.S. production facility in the Clark County town of Borden. The company is investing more than $5 million to set up shop in the Borden Business Park and create 62 full-time jobs by 2027. Lamaflex provides transport packaging solutions primarily for the steel, aluminum, and cable industries, and the new facility will be used to manufacture and store a variety of plastic components. From Shipshe to Middlebury, fields and storefronts have turned into an outdoor gallery this fall as the Autumn Adventures returns with more than 36 locations participating in the Giant Straw Bale Art Contest. Sonia Nash is Executive Director of the Shipshe LaGrange County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
The concept is you go from place to place to connect through all of the cities and towns. You don't have to do it all at once, but the idea is that you visit the shops, you follow the map, you go inside the businesses, you see the straw bale. It's a way to find your way and do them all. It's spread out to have a full fall experience.
Through November 2nd, residents and visitors can enjoy and vote for their favorite straw art across 39 locations in LaGrange County. Richmond-based Reid Health announced today it has appointed Ben Wells as its new president and CEO. Wells, who has served as chief financial officer for the health system since July 2024, succeeds Craig Kenyon, who served in the role for nearly 17 years. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media Podcast Network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.
Child care providers around Indiana will see reimbursement rate cuts of 10 to 35% as the state's Family and Social Services Administration tries to close a $225 million funding gap.
The Child Care Development Fund is a federal program that gives financial assistance by subsidies or vouchers to low-income families to help them pay for child care so parents can work or attend education and training programs. Adam Olson is the director of the Office of Early Childhood and Out-of-School Learning, and he said the rate cuts weren't an easy decision, but the only other way to rein in spending would have been to cut the number of families in the program. Right now, 55,000 children receive a voucher, above the pre-pandemic average of 35,000 participants. Olson said former Governor Eric Holcomb's administration used federal COVID dollars to raise rates and expand eligibility. The program peaked at 68,000 children, costing around $900 million in state and federal funding. When the pandemic assistance waned, the state tapped surplus money from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program in fiscal year 2025 to cover the loss. But those funds are no longer available for the Child Care Development Fund, which means the state would have to pull from its general fund to make up the difference. Rates for infant and toddler care, for instance, will drop by 10%. Rates for preschoolers between the ages of 3 and 5 will be cut 15%, and rates for school-age children will be cut by 35%. Those new rates go into effect October 5th, with the first pay date being November 6th. I'm Marek Mazurek for Inside Indiana Business Radio.
The Indiana Economic Development Corporation's executive director, Jeff Blade, is exiting the agency after less than a year as part of what Commerce Secretary David Adams calls the evolution of the organization. Adams wrote in an email to IEDC staff that Blade will be leaving the organization at the end of this week. Governor Mike Braun's office described Blade's departure as a resignation, saying that Blade officially gave his notice this week. The office added that Blade had previously expressed to Adams his desire to return to the private sector. Michigan City leaders are upset over a recent announcement by the Indiana Department of Correction that the agency is backing away from plans to close the Indiana State Prison. The City Council unanimously passed a non-binding resolution Tuesday renouncing the about-face from state leadership. Councilor Nancy Moldenhauer.
This is very disheartening, and especially when the Revitalization Committee has been working so hard and diligently on this for a year, and was extremely excited about what the vision could be for the west side of Michigan City.
Last month, DOC leadership said it plans to keep the facility open and operational as a prison for some time after the completion of the new $1.2 billion Northwest Indiana Correctional Facility in Westville. The resolution also states the city strongly opposes the site being used as a detention facility for immigrants. F.A. Wilhelm Construction President Pat Kenny is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, and entertainment, and beyond. Available now on the IBJ Media app or your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.
Off the Record with Indiana's 250 most influential business and community leaders is a podcast that peels back the curtain on Indiana's most respected leaders, one episode at a time. Go beyond the headlines and hear the stories of grit and innovation that shape these leaders. Do you want to know who's driving our state forward? This is a must listen. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts or at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.